Hello everyone, Rurikhan here coming at you with another Cast, and this particular Cast is going to be about my trip to Germany. We went to Gamescom, as you guys should know by now, really, because I've been tweeting about it, I've been mentioning about it on several videos, and today I'm actually recording this as kind of like the E3 trip log thing that I did in the past to kind of update you guys on all the stuff that's happened. And hopefully also give you guys a couple of tips on the stuff that you should do if you want to attempt to try and do this kind of coverage, as well as give you guys the content that's going to be coming up to the channel in the next couple of days or even weeks. Because I did a lot of stuff at Gamescom. Gamescom actually went relatively well. Especially if you take into consideration that it is only my second event of this type. I think I did pretty well. So anyways, let's get started. This time around, however, I'm going to keep the traditional Cast structure as opposed to just being about the trip. Because let's face it, E3 trip was a bit of an adventure because it was the first one and because of all the crazy stuff that happened. If you haven't seen that video yet, I would advise you to go and check it out whenever you have time. Gamescom, however, went a lot more smoothly. But let's get started. As per usual, we're going to have the shout-out section. So if you see me stray my eyes in that direction, I am going to be going ahead and breaking the fourth wall here, as I always do. I'm going to be, whenever I stare that direction, means I'm looking at my notes. Also, if you notice, my voice is a little spent because I've done a ton of interviews, as well as watched a lot of content and spoken to a lot of people while I was at Gamescom. So that is why my voice is a little bit spent. However, I want to do this particular video while all this stuff is still kind of fresh in my mind. Just to give you guys an idea, let me try and show you guys my schedule here. I'm not sure how the camera is going to focus in on this. But basically, this thing right here, this is Wednesday, which is the first day that the media is allowed, like right here. Which is the first day that the media was allowed at Gamescom. And as you can see, lots of stuff filled up. And you will also notice that there's 2 events here for Dark Souls. We'll get to that in just a couple of minutes. Sorry about the sudden light transitions and whatnot. As you guys are aware, I'm not very experienced with a camera. I'm more experienced about talking about things and ranting and rambling, which I am doing right now. So let's get on to the shout outs of Cast. The very first shout out goes out to Oliver Kelber for donating to the cause. Thank you very much, Oliver Kelber. The next shout out goes to Jeremy Moore for also donating to the cause. Thank you very much, Jeremy Moore. And one more shout out to Alan Chung. I'm not sure if this is how I pronounce your name. I'm really sorry, dude. He also donated to the cause. And let me just tell you guys, thank you very much. Because, if you take into consideration the current monetization on YouTube, these donations, I mean, they're not what's keeping me afloat, but they're a definite help. Oh my God, you guys have no idea. Things are not so good right now in terms of YouTube monetization stuff. But either way, I digress. I mean, and please don't take this like, he's asking for the... I'm not asking. I appreciate if people feel that they should do it or whatever, but don't do it unless you... Whatever. What I mean is, don't think I'm trying to manipulate you, because that's not the point. I love you, each and every one of you individually, regardless if you donate or not. Anyways, I have a couple more shout outs here. One shout out to Mad Cat, a friend of mine, who offered me a game for my birthday, actually, which was almost a month ago. It's just I haven't done a Cast in over a month. He offered me Revenge of the Titans, which, to be honest, I still haven't had a chance to check out, but thank you very much either way. Shout out to Andarius, who donated Spelunky, which that donation is actually what enabled me to do the Spelunky First Impressions video. And then a big shout out to PlayStation Portugal for once again being super nice to me as I was out at Gamescom. PlayStation Portugal was also there, more specifically Sandra, if you guys remember her from my E3 trip log. She was there as well. She was also super nice once again. So I just have to give her another shout out, and very special shout out to Rubber Chicken Games, because it was due to them that I was able to actually go to Gamescom as press. And I'm also going to be working on some content for them as well, including the interviews that I've recorded, all that stuff. But they were a really great team, and they supported me in a lot of ways. As a matter of fact, a lot of the stuff that you see on the schedule that I showed you was only possible exclusively because of them. They were the ones booking it all for me. So yeah, it was pretty cool. And that is the end of the shout out section. Then there was community topic, but I checked on the latest Cast, and it seems that there were not that many suggestions for community topics. And the one suggestion that was there was like one, it didn't even have a like or anything. It was the suggestion for me to talk more about Next Gen by Robert Alexander. But the thing is, talking about Next Gen, like I could spend an entire Cast talking about Next Gen. And this Cast, I wanted to focus more on Gamescom, so sorry. But once again, leave your comments in the comment section below in regards to community topics, because there really weren't that many, and there weren't any of them really upvoted by people. Like I always say, though, please check the comments before you post your suggestion to make sure it hasn't been suggested already, in which case you should just upvote that particular suggestion so that I will talk about it, okay? So just kind of keep that stuff in mind when you are suggesting community topics. Now, I'm going to keep moving on, and we're going to be going a little bit faster today because I don't want to waste a lot of time. So, and there's a lot of stuff to get to. That's what I meant. Anyways, the very first thing I wanted to tackle in regards to Gamescom was the Dark Souls 2 situation. You guys might have seen me on Twitter bitching a little bit and ranting a little bit because, yeah, I was kind of a little bit pissed off. As a matter of fact, why the hell am I even lying? I was really pissed off. Basically, before we start, as we were organizing all the stuff for Gamescom, me and Miguel, the guy that went with me, as we were organizing the stuff for Gamescom, he tells me that Namco didn't actually invite us to do anything, because if Namco had invited us, Rubber Chicken was going to pass it off to me so that I could go to Namco, and because I mean obviously I know a lot about the Namco franchises and stuff like that. It would just kind of make sense. So if Namco was going to give them anything, they were going to hand it off to me. So basically, and Namco gave them absolutely nothing. So I'm like, okay, this is weird. So I send out an email to one of my contacts that I met at E3, and I never got a reply back. I'm not exactly sure why, but I never got a reply back from that. So basically I was asking, is Namco doing anything for Gamescom? What's going on? Because I was looking for Namco in the exhibitioner's booth for Gamescom 2013, and I couldn't find them. So I was like, well, what the hell is going on? And then I noticed that also Capcom's not there, and Atlas is not there, and other Japanese publishers are just not there, which made me realize that it seems that a part of the gaming market doesn't really see Gamescom as like a big deal, which, let me just tell you, it is wrong not to see Gamescom as a big deal, because it really is. Like, people have no idea. People that haven't been to Gamescom, you guys have no idea. It is ridiculous. Either way, after noticing that Namco Bandai wasn't there, I was like, well, maybe Dark Souls is going through From Software or something. I don't know. I'm just Googling like Dark Souls 2 Gamescom, and I come up on this thing about an event, a community event that's going to be taking place in near Gamescom somewhere. And so I obviously I go and I register to attend the event. I register as press because, let's face it, I am press at this point with all the work that I've done, my friggin' blistered feet and running around the exposition, both on E3 and now on Gamescom. I don't care what anybody else says. I am press, and fuck you very much if you don't believe me, okay? Either way, so I register as press. I give a link to my YouTube channel because obviously like 70% of my YouTube channel is Dark Souls 2 content. I mean, Dark Souls content, be that Dark Souls theory crafting, guides, let's plays, whatever. a lot of content on my channel is Dark Souls. So you'd figure, they'd invite me. But anyways, they didn't. Miguel, who was the guy that was going with me to Gamescom, he registered as well. They invited him, and then they asked him which day he would prefer to go. He answered them back, and they were supposed to send him back a location of where the event was going to take place, and they never got back to him either. So I was like, well, what the hell is going on? It's just like this weird thing. But at the end of the day, basically, I realized, look, it's fine. We don't have an invitation, whatever. They don't want us there. I'll figure whatever's going on with Dark Souls when I get back home. And I just focused back on Gamescom. I was just really pissed off about the fact that I didn't get invited. That was the thing for me. And I'm not going to sit here and lie about it and be all super professional or whatever and try to keep things aside. It's like, look, I'm sorry. I really wanted to get invited. But either way, I'm not going to make a big fuss out of it either. It's like, fine, whatever. It's just that is the reason why I'm not reporting Dark Souls news to you guys right now, because I'm going to make it a priority to actually cover this stuff for the people that actually invited me and were kind enough to receive me and do interviews with me. And, those people, the people that I actually got to see at Gamescom, I'm going to prioritize that work, and then I'll get to Dark Souls 2. Because let's face it, I mean, if I get a ton of content, it would actually be disrespectful for all the other people that took their time to speak with me and do interviews with me. And I'm just like, you guys just wait. I'm going to go do Dark Souls now. Come on. Let's face it. And after I get to all the other stuff that I've done at Gamescom, I will then start analyzing any new things that might have come out on Dark Souls 2. Then there's also the business card issue. That was another thing that just completely pissed me off. I went completely off the rails on this one, which was Sunday I had to drive my parents to the airport. Now, the airport is in the capital city of Portugal. The capital city of Portugal, okay? And I'm in this area, which is this area just with shopping malls, and I mean, it's close to the airport, for crying out loud. I mean, and I'm going all over the place after I drop my parents off at the airport. I'm going all over the place looking for some place to print my business card. Yes, I have a business card because when you go to these types of events, you obviously want to be able to exchange contact information with other people so that you can then, get in contact. That is one of the major points of me going into these events, is to be able to network with other people so that I can then keep in touch with game developers, PR companies, publishers, that kind of stuff. So obviously, you need business cards for that. And unfortunately, I saved it to the very last day because when I went to get them made, there was a problem with the machine or whatever, and basically I had to work on questions. I was overwhelmed, so I left it all for last day. In a way, I guess it was kind of a little bit my fault, but I mean, I would never figure out that, I'm sorry, just because it's a Sunday, you can't get a freaking business card printed. I'm sorry. I did not anticipate that, specifically taking into consideration that I was in the capital of fucking Portugal. Okay? So, I went around pretty much, I would say like 60% of my day on the Sunday, which was the day before I left, was me running around trying to print business cards, and I wasn't able to. Eventually, I ended up printing business cards in Germany because apparently it's just easier there. But hey, whatever, I'm sorry. So yeah, it's just something that happened that kind of pissed me off. Either way, so Monday morning, we go to the airport. We take the airplane. We arrive in Germany. Not a whole lot of stuff really happened. It was a pretty calm day. We caught a bit of rain on the way to the hotel, and then I went to Gamescom. I actually walked there because the hotel was about a kilometer and something away, and I wanted to go ahead and kind of, get my bearings, because when you're in a new location, specifically a location that you've never been before, you obviously want to go ahead and get your bearings so that when you have to go there the next day and work, you will already know where all this stuff is. So I went there, did a little bit of exploration, and then went back to the hotel. I also ate a doner because someone said, man, you got to eat a doner. I remember someone said that in my comments. Ate one, and I have to tell you, dude, I was not impressed. Sorry. The doner did not do it for me. So either way, I'm actually going to pick up my schedule now because this is when things actually start to get into the schedule area. So I'm going to start by talking about Tuesday. On Tuesday was the very first day that I went to Gamescom to pick up my press credentials. So on Tuesday, actually on Monday, I decided that I was going to walk every single day to Gamescom and back from Gamescom to my hotel, which is 1 kilometer and something. I'm not exactly sure how much it is. I think it's about a mile in terms of American measurements, which I still don't know why the hell doesn't America just start using the metric system at this point? Come on, guys, get with the program. Either way, so I decided that despite the fact that I had to carry around my heavy backpack with my laptop, my tripod, my camera, all that equipment basically that I needed to do coverage on Gamescom, I decided to do that. And the main reason why I decided to do it is because, look, I'm not going to have time to really concern myself with my diet, which, as you guys know, I'm going through the diet. All I do is eat soup and salad. I'm not really going to have time for that while I'm at Gamescom because I'm going to be focusing on either scheduling new appointments or attending the appointments that I have. So whenever I do have time to eat, I'm just going to grab a sandwich or whatever. So I just decided, look, I'll just walk these extra miles every day to kind of make up for it, right? So Tuesday morning, I walk all the way to Gamescom. Pretty easy. No real big problem there. I get to Gamescom. I was at Gamescom way too early. So I took the time to go ahead and start working on a couple of questions for interviews that I didn't have questions yet for. Because, yes, in case you guys don't know, I took a lot of time before Gamescom to actually record videos to upload onto the channel for you guys. And that took away from my time to actually prepare for interviews, which meant that I didn't have all of the questions for all the interviews that I needed to do. On top of that, there were a couple of interviews that kind of snuck up on me because they told me that I was informed that those sessions were presentations and they were actually interviews. So there'll be more on that a little bit later. I think you guys are going to get a kick out of all the stuff that happened. But basically, the thing that you guys should take away from what I'm telling you right now, which is I got there early and I had nothing to do, so I instantly started working on stuff, is like when you're doing an event like this, the most important thing is don't waste any time. It's like, look, if you're standing still on one spot, be working. Pull out your laptop. I mean, pull out whatever. Pull out a notepad. Start working on something, okay? Whatever you can. Plan stuff. See your schedule holes. Make new arrangements. You know, that kind of stuff. You need to always be doing things because you need to maximize your performance. And the reason is because supposedly if you're going to an event like this, which is in a foreign country, you're going to be expending quite a bit of money in airplane tickets and hotels. And you want to get as much value out of that money as possible in the form of coverage. That is my advice to people that want to do this kind of stuff anyways. Moving on. So I stayed around for an hour, worked on some questions, and then I picked up my press credentials, and then I went to another building which was close by to Gamescom to pick up my Sony wristband, which was going to give me access to the Sony press conference. And then I received note that all of the PlayStation presentations were actually going to be held in a building, not a building, in a hotel. Well, technically it is a building. It was going to be, all of the PlayStation presentations were going to be held at a hotel, which was called the Radisson Blu. So they were not actually held at Gamescom. And I still didn't knew where the Radisson Blu was. Neither me nor Miguel, because we didn't really explore it that much. So I thought, well, I don't really have anything else to do right now, so I'm going to go ahead and explore around. See, once again, maximize your time. I was getting my bearings again to make sure that I knew what would be the best way to get around from Gamescom to the Radisson Blu, because I had a lot of days where it's like, time to go to the Radisson, time to come back to Gamescom, time to go. That kind of stuff happened. Either way, I identified that. I also went around the whole complex, which is, for those of you who don't know, Gamescom was actually held at a place called Colne Mess. I'm not exactly sure how to say that properly, but that's the best you're going to get out of me. Colne Mess. And let me just tell you something. That place is easily 3 times as big as E3. Easily. Okay? And it surprises me that it appears that people don't pay as much attention to that as they do to E3, because the place is a lot bigger. Now, I'm not sure if there were more people there or not than at E3, because to be completely honest, something that also happens in Gamescom is that they split off the business area from the entertainment area. Now, E3 also does this in a way because they have like business, how should I call it? I don't know exactly how to call it, but basically like they have the upper floor, which is like on E3, which is like a floor just more for business and closed door presentations and that kind of stuff. But they also do a lot of the stuff at the booths themselves. So in E3, it's kind of blurred. In Gamescom, it's like, no, look, there's 4 halls. Well, it's not really 4 halls. It's like, it's 2 halls, but there are 2 floors each. So you get the idea. There's 4 sections of Gamescom are basically dedicated exclusively to behind closed doors presentations, which is the reason why I'm not exactly sure if more people attended E3 or Gamescom, because I spend most of my time in the business halls. Like, you guys might be wondering, what do you mean you spend most of your time? You didn't even go to see the exhibition? No, I didn't, because I was too damn busy. I had I think I must have spent a combined total of maybe 3 hours on the actual show floor, most of which were on the final day, which because I had no more no more appointments scheduled. So I kind of, on the final day, I was able to actually visit the show floor. But for most of the time, I was at the business halls trying to get as many presentations as I possibly could. But yeah, so we're still on Tuesday. I just picked up my credentials. I walked around the Colne Mess and all that stuff, and then I had nothing else to do. So I went back to the hotel, and on the way, I ate bratwurst in this very local place, which, because it was a very small kind of, I wouldn't even call it a restaurant, because you actually would eat standing up. So it was almost like fast food, but not really. And I have to say, it was the best meal I had while I was in Germany. Easily the best meal I had while I was in Germany. It was basically just this sausage. They sliced it, and then they put some fries in there. And what's up with German people and putting paprika on their fries? Some good shit, guys. Good shit. So that was the best meal I had in Germany. Just thought I would let you guys know about that. It was a very local place in... What was the place called that I was in? It was close to the station of Colne HBF, whatever the hell that is. I have no idea what HBF is. And let me just tell you, German people, what is it with you and these weird names for all your train stations? I mean, oh man, I was frustrated a lot of time. Why couldn't you just put something in English there? Like, for instance, this station takes you to the airport. No, it's called Bonn Flugenhafen. Flugenhafen Airport. I'm pretty sure that's what it means by now. The Flugenhafen. I'm sorry. Either way. So I had that, and after that, I basically prepared and headed out for the EA press conference, because I was invited to that. Microsoft didn't invite me to the press conference, despite the persistence of Rubber Chicken trying to get me in there. Microsoft decided not to invite me. As a matter of fact, it seems that only one Portuguese reporter turned up for the for the Microsoft press event, and that was my colleague Miguel from Rubber Chicken. And yeah, so I have no idea what the hell happened at the Microsoft press conference. We didn't really talk too much about it. He told me that he played a whole bunch of games, but I was like, okay, well, they didn't invite me, so whatever. So then I went to the EA press conference. They announced a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, you all saw it more than likely because it was live streamed and it's probably somewhere on YouTube right now. The main issue with me going to that particular conference was the fact that there was this big German guy in front of me, and like his head was huge. The guy was tall as hell, and his head was huge. So like he was taking up like the entire middle portion of the presentation screen, and I was like, oh my god, why? So basically, I spent the whole presentation leaning sideways, and my neck still hurts. But yeah. Watch that presentation. After that, they offered us bagels and beer, but I wasn't really hungry at that point, so didn't really eat anything. And then we went off to the Sony presentation, because the interesting thing about these events is that all the companies actually go and pick up the reporters wherever they are to take them to their presentations, which I always find it's kind of funny. Like, for instance, you go to the Cologne HBF, the train station, and that is where Microsoft picked up Miguel to take him to the Microsoft event. Apparently, that bus also had food and stuff if you wanted to eat for free, of course. And from there, that bus, not that bus, but actually EA sent buses to the Microsoft event to pick people up at the end of the Microsoft event to bring them to the EA press event. So after the EA press event, Sony sent buses to pick people up at the EA press event to take them to the Sony event, which is interesting because, these companies are kind of like trying to facilitate stuff for journalists. And some people might say, oh, they're just pampering and stuff. But in reality, it's actually really convenient. I mean, can you imagine? Do you know the number of journalists that were at the EA press conference? It was insane. There wasn't even enough room for everyone to sit down. So it's like, can you imagine all of those people all of a sudden just trying to pick up a cab? That's unthinkable. So I'm glad that things work like that in this regard, at least. It's definitely considerate of them to basically treat news reporters like that. And I know that a lot of people think that, oh, they're just kind of trying to buy you off or whatever. And I'm sorry, but it's just the convenience that something like that provides. You can't argue with that. You can't, because it would be a clusterfuck for people to actually get from one event to the other. Especially in the numbers of people that we're talking about here. It would be ridiculous. And I think that a lot of times reporters aren't thankful enough to the companies for the efforts that they make. I mean, let's face it. What business is it of Sony if you went to the Electronic Arts press conference? It's not their problem. It really isn't. So I think that there should be a little bit more recognition out there for companies, is all I'm saying. So then we watched the Sony press event, and then we kind of hung out with a whole bunch of other Portuguese reporters from other outlets like Eurogamer and I'm sorry, I can't remember all the websites that were over there, but there was a bunch of people there. So we hung out for a while, and then eventually I went back to the hotel. And then Wednesday morning, which is when all hell was about to break loose because Gamescom was about to open, and we were actually about to, start getting started with things. I went there and I arrived at about 8:30, if I remember correctly. We went to the east entrance, and we just basically went in at about 9, which is when they were letting people in. I thought that they were going to let the press in earlier, which would actually be really considerate. But the fact of the matter is that a lot of people somehow, I'm not exactly sure how, a lot of people that weren't actually press got their hands on a lot of press passes, which, again, confuses me. It really confuses me. Because if you're not there to actually do press coverage and you have a press pass, all you're doing is getting in the way of other people, which is annoying as all hell. I know from experience because like a lot of the presentations that I was at, like people weren't even taking notes. It's like, how the hell are you going to cover a game if you can't videotape like 90% of these presentations? You can't videotape, you can't film like off-screen stuff because they don't want you to. And it's like, so if you can't videotape it and you're not like audio recording it and you're not taking notes, well, what the fuck are you doing there to begin with? You're not press at that point. I'm sorry. Okay. And I know that I sound a little bit arrogant. It kind of rubs me the wrong way because I do a lot of sacrifices to go there. Okay. I do a lot of sacrifices, and sometimes I'm covering games that maybe I'm not that interested in, but they were scheduled for me by Rubber Chicken because of the way of how publishers work and stuff like that. They will schedule tons of games for you. So there will be the games that you're interested in and the games that you're not so interested in. But basically what I mean is that if I'm there covering stuff and I'm doing my best to get all this information about games, and there's a ton of other people there taking up slots, because for instance, Ubisoft was fully booked for everything. I went there to try to get a slot for anything, and they were fully booked. And this is the reason why this kind of stuff pisses me off. If people that aren't press or aren't doing press-related work are getting press badges, it's a pain in the ass. Because, like, for instance, who knows how many people gotten access to Ubisoft presentations and they didn't do anything, or they won't do anything in regards to the access that they've gotten. Well, then I could have been there, you know? That's the point where I'm getting. Either way, let's get started. So we enter the show floor, and me personally, I straight out headed to the business halls because I wanted to get my bearings, because I had a ton of maps. I actually don't have them here, but I printed out every single hall in Colne Mess, and I marked out the stuff that I was interested in so that whenever I had free time or something like that, I would go to places to see. But the problem is, after you printed the map, you don't know exactly how the layout is, because I printed maps of each individual hall, but until I actually got there and started exploring stuff, I didn't exactly knew how the maps worked, if that makes any sense. Anyways, so I went there, and I was a little bit overwhelmed at the start because there was a lot of stuff. These halls were enormous. So obviously I was a little bit overwhelmed. I looked around for quite some time trying to get my bearings, figure out how the map worked. And that's pretty much where I spent most of my time doing when I got there, was just kind of getting my bearings and scouting for stuff that I knew that I wanted to see, but I wasn't quite ready to talk with them yet because I hadn't warmed up, you know, because you need to kind of warm up before you go up and just start talking to people, because otherwise you're going to fail. You need to like get some sort of warm up in the whole events thing, especially in an event where pretty much everyone assumes that you speak German. Like everywhere I would go, people would always talk to me in German. It's like, this is an international event. You guys could try addressing people in English first. Damn it. No, but actually they have a point, because it is Germany, so they should just assume that a lot of the people that are there are German, because that is kind of a way to impose the dominance of your language. For instance, if anyone comes to Portugal, we will speak any language for you. We will speak French, we'll speak Spanish, we'll speak German. Portuguese people will bend over backwards to please any foreigner that comes to Portugal. And that is why our version of Portuguese has absolutely no dominance in the world. And when I say our version of Portuguese, it's because there's also like the Brazilian Portuguese, so to speak. But the actual Portuguese has almost no weight in the world, because we don't really force it on anyone. We just adapt to anyone that comes down here. Like, for instance, yo sé hablar un poquito español, pero no costumo hacerlo. Basically, that means I know how to speak a little bit of Spanish, but I usually don't really do it. And as you guys know by now, I know how to speak English. Também sei falar português, which means I also know how to speak Portuguese. And je parle français aussi, so I also know how to speak French. German, not so much. 9. I know how to say a couple of things, but not too much. But basically the point is Portuguese people just adapt. We'll adapt to whatever needs you have. And that is why our language doesn't have any dominance. But I'm derailing. So after spotting a lot of the stuff that I wanted to come back to later, I headed straight to Activision because I had an interview for Call of Duty Ghosts. That was my first thing at Gamescom, an interview for Call of Duty Ghosts. And let me just say that I know that I'm not a big Call of Duty fan, but due to the fact that I had to do research on Call of Duty to come up with questions to ask the guy that I interviewed, I had to do research before I headed down to Germany. During that research, I actually became somewhat interested in Call of Duty Ghosts because of the squad mechanic. I liked the idea of leveling up a squad of AI and then basically doing all the squad stuff of battling other people's squads. And I don't know, there's something that appealed to me in that particular mechanic. I mean, the rest of it is, it's Call of Duty, let's face it. So either way, I do the Call of Duty interview, and let me just tell you that all of the interviews that I recorded at Gamescom are going to be coming to the channel. Now, some of these interviews might not interest you, but the fact of the matter is I poured my heart and soul into these interviews to actually perform these interviews. I did a lot of background research. I did a lot of work in the way that I would ask the questions. I did a lot of work of improv while I was at the interview to pull questions from the people I was I was going to say interrogating, but that sounds really bad. From the people I was interviewing, I pulled a lot of questions from them. And that took a lot of work and passion from me. And I'm proud of the work that I did in those interviews. So they will be uploaded. And this means that there will be stuff on the channel like a Skylanders Swap Force interview. There will be stuff on the channel like, let me see, what else would be somewhat outside my usual area of expertise. Well, there's going to be a Call of Duty Ghosts interview on the channel. There's going to be an interview to Total War Rome 2. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of all of these interviews that I've done. They're all going to show up on the channel. There's even a World of Warcraft interview. Isn't that ironic? Like after all this time, you guys know how much I would have paid. Not really paid. How much I would have given. Like I would have given my left nut back when I was playing World of Warcraft. I would have given my left nut for an interview with the people that I interviewed while I was at Gamescom. Like, you guys have no idea. Either way, let me get back to the schedule. So right after the Call of Duty Ghosts interview, I went ahead and I tried getting. I tried going to Koch. I'm sorry, it's a German word. It's Koch. It's supposed to be read Koch Media. I went to Koch Media to try and see if they would schedule me anything because I had a couple of holes in my schedule, basically. And one of the things that you got to do is if you have holes in your schedule, you have to get there on the time you get there. You have to go to places. You have to try and fill those holes up because you don't want to have holes on your schedule. Like, sure, you have half an hour holes. That's one thing. You have 15 minutes holes. That's great. 15-minute holes are perfect because a lot of these appointments bleed over each other a lot of the time, which is really annoying. But like, if you have like 2-hour long gaps, no, that's a waste of your time. You can't have 2-hour long gaps. And I never, ever had a 2-hour long gap. I mean, for instance, you see here, you'll notice that there is a big gap right around here. I totally filled that up. I went and I watched a Blizzard press conference. I wasn't able to watch it all the way, which I think that a lot of the people that were over there were pissed off because they saw me leaving mid in the middle of the thing. But here's the thing. I watched the very beginning of that presentation. It was about the announcement of the Reaper of Souls, which I'm sure you guys watched live online as well. So I watched the very beginning of it. And as I left, Miguel was coming in to cover the rest of it. So basically, me and Miguel, we both covered the entirety of that press conference. That was our strategy because we couldn't be there at the same. We couldn't both attend the full presentation because of our schedules. So basically, in the group of the both of us, we had all the information. It's just he saw the latter half, I saw the starter half. So I mean, it's like I realized that Blizzard was a little bit annoyed at me because I left in the middle of the presentation, but I had to. It was a scheduling constraint. I had no choice because here's the thing: I left and I had to do the whole Radisson Hotel thing that I told you guys about because I went to see a tech presentation of The Order 1886 for PlayStation 4. So that was pretty impressive. It was just a presentation. It wasn't an interview or anything like that. It was pretty impressive. I'm probably going to be doing a video about that. Its own dedicated video. So that's going to be some of the content that you will be seeing on the channel. Another thing that I went to see after that was Killzone Mercenary. I'm not exactly sure if I'm going to be making a video on this thing specifically, but I might be making a video on both Killzone Mercenary and Killzone Shadowfall multiplayer. Just kind of gather all the Killzone stuff into one video and put that out there for you guys. So that might be another video that might be coming out. And after I watched the Killzone Mercenary presentation, I had to actually run back to Gamescom because what happened was the Killzone Mercenary presentation ended at 1 o'clock, and I had Ubisoft, the Mighty Quest for Epic Loot, at 1 o'clock as well. Now, I understand that to a lot of you guys are like, oh, Mighty Quest for Epic Loot, come on, man, who cares about that? But here's the thing. When you schedule something with one of these companies, you have to be there or they're going to treat you like crap next time you try to set up anything with them. So you have to be there always, be it big or small. You have to attend every single thing they book for you. That's just the way these things work, which was actually cool for me because I wanted to talk to someone about the Mighty Quest for Epic Loot. Now, the problem was I was at the Radisson Hotel, right? So I have to go from Radisson Hotel to Gamescom, and I'm practically running from the Radisson Hotel to Gamescom because I knew that I was going to be late. And then I get to the east entrance, and there's like over 1,000 people trying to get into Gamescom. And I'm like, what the fuck? I'm never going to be there on time. So I run to the west entrance because supposedly the west entrance is only for trade visitors and press. So I go to the west entrance, and I run up the stairs, and I notice that there's also a press line. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so screwed. So instead of going to the entry place, I go to the exit because I noticed there's a lady there that also has a thing that allows you to go inside the trade show. So I went to that lady. I'm like, look, I have a 1 o'clock appointment. I really need to get in there. It's with Ubisoft. Super important. Can you just let me through? So she scanned my thing and she let me through. And I'm like, running towards the Ubisoft booth at the business hall. And I get there about 5 minutes late, but it's fine because they set me up. So they set me up with this one guy. It was a one-on-one presentation, just me talking with one of the developers. I'm not exactly sure what his role was now that I think about it, but I think it was one of the big developers for Mighty Quest for Epic Loot. And I'm really sorry if he happens to be watching this video. I'm sorry, dude. It's just like I've done so much stuff in Gamescom. I'm sorry. So one of the first things that I told him is, look, I really don't like your game that much because of the whole 30-minute upgrade your castle thing, because it makes it feel like a Facebook game. And the guy's like, you know what? You're absolutely right. We don't like it either. It's going to be changed. And I'm like, well, now we can talk. So I actually got excited about the prospects of Mighty Quest for Epic Loot once a couple of the changes that he told me come about. But I will first wait until I get a proper beta key to test out Mighty Quest for Epic Loot. And then I will make a video about all of the stuff that I discussed with him because he assured me that he was going to send me a beta key for Mighty Quest for Epic Loot. Excuse me. And at that point, I will be sure to take a detailed look at it, as well as mention all the future plans that he told me that they have for the game. After that, I had another presentation at Ubisoft, which was Might and Magic Heroes Online. Now, my knowledge of this game was so bad that I didn't even knew what it was. I just thought it was another Might and Magic Heroes of Might and Magic game. That's what I thought it was, which it isn't. It is actually a free-to-play MMO. If you happen not to know about that stuff. Either way, I was actually pretty impressed with that game as well, which is surprising. Like, it was two things that I was not excited at all. And after they gave me a presentation, and I actually got to have some hands-on with the Heroes of with Might and Magic Heroes Online, Champions Online, whatever the hell they call the game. It has a really big name. I actually had a chance to do some hands-on, and I thought it was actually really fun. And I asked him, send me a beta key whenever possible. I really want to do like a first impressions video when the embargoes lift up or whatever. So send me a beta key. I'm going to shoot you an email and all that stuff because I liked what I saw. As a matter of fact, I liked a lot of the stuff that I saw at Gamescom. It might be that I'm easily impressed sometimes, I think, but I don't know. I liked the game. I don't know what else to say. I was excited about it. I liked it. So he did the presentation. Then I got to play it a little bit, and I asked a couple of questions. More than likely, I will be doing a video about this game to kind of explain to you guys what the game's all about. Not sure if it's going to be before or after I receive a beta key on it. But I definitely want to do some coverage on this game. After that, I had an interview with the Total War Rome 2 guys. And this was something that I have to say was like one of my highlights of the whole event, because those two guys, they really love their game. They totally love their game, and it's a pleasure to actually interview passionate individuals that they can't stop talking about their game. So it's like, I think the interview is like almost a half an hour long. I'm going to have to cut some stuff here and there, but that interview, I loved it. I just thought it was amazing because here I knew almost nothing about Rome 2 except for a couple of things that I researched before I went into the interview. And I thought there was going to be a presentation or something, but there was nothing. It was just the interview straight up. And I was still able to have a half an hour conversation with those guys, and it was amazing. And it got me interested in the game but I think that the reason why I was so interested in that particular game is because of how passionate those two guys were about that game. It's just, if you're doing interviews, and it depends, because some people do interviews for different reasons. A lot of people are doing those interviews and they need to do those 5-minute interviews because they're going after that kind of audience. Me, I don't have that problem. You guys already know I like long videos. I like long format. That's my thing. So like, if I get an interview that's half an hour long, I'm happy. I'm perfectly happy. I've got no problems like, oh man, have to edit down this half an hour interview to 5 minutes. No, fuck that. As long as the developers aren't saying anything that's embarrassing to them or anything, because again, I'm not looking for that tabloid type of interview where you kind of ambush people, ambush journalism. I'm not interested in that shit. It's like, I even said every single interview that I was in, look, if you say something that you want me to cut out or whatever, just let me know, because I don't want you guys, I want people to feel comfortable when they're in an interview with me. Otherwise, they're constantly freaking thinking about what they can or they can't say, which is dumb. It's really dumb, because interviews shouldn't work like that, in my opinion anyways. Either way, love that interview. I cannot thank those two guys enough. I can't remember their names. I'm a terrible person. I have their names on video though, but it's just, I can't remember any names because there was so many things that I did at Gamescom, but I just totally loved that interview. They were the best. They were amazing. So after that, I had to run back to the Radisson for another presentation. This time around, it was a presentation for Tearaway. So Tearaway is actually a really decent looking game. It's definitely not my kind of game. It's made by the same guys who made Little Big Planet. I currently don't have a lot of intentions on covering it, except on if I think it's going to have to be at this point, when I get the Capture Vita, because I'm going to have to get it. I just have to get a Capture Vita. The problem is that Sony is just not doing anything in regards to people being able to capture with the Vita. And that is so disappointing. And I told this to Sandra. I'm like, look, I will help you guys sell fucking PlayStation Vitas. Trust me. The fucking thing will sell. Just get me a dev kit. Get me something that I can record with, for the love of God. Get me something. I will help you sell this device. Just make it so that when I'm recording it, I don't have to have a camera in front of my face because it's uncomfortable as hell and it sucks and my performance drops by like friggin' 80%. I play 80% worse when I'm playing with a camera in front of my face. I wonder why. Just, give me a goddamn capture device on a Vita already. Jesus Christ. But yeah, Tearaway is definitely an interesting game. And those of you that enjoyed stuff like Little Big Planet, you will love Tearaway. And it makes use of a lot of the Vita-specific features, all that stuff. So yeah. Then after Tearaway, I had to go back to Gamescom. So just try to keep track of how many times I went to the Radisson Hotel and back to Gamescom. Because you guys might think, oh, it's just across the street, right? No. You guys don't understand. You have to cross 3 streets and 2 train tracks to get to this hotel. Okay, it's close, yeah, but there's 3 streets, 2 train tracks. Like every time that I would be on that goddamn train tracks, I'm like, this is it. I'm going to get hit by a fucking TGV, which is, those really like friggin' bullet trains. I'm going to get hit by one of these fuckers. I'm going to die, and I'm going to die in Germany, run over by a goddamn train. But yeah, so I went back to Gamescom, and I went to do the Destiny interview. And the Destiny interview, I have to say that I was a little bit, it pains me to say it, but I was a little bit disappointed with that particular interview. And it really pains me to say it because it was one of the interviews that I was most excited about. And yet it was one of the interviews where they gave me the least amount of information. It was a little bit disappointing. A lot of the stuff I asked, they flat out said, we're not going to answer that. And here's the thing. Look, I understand that the game is still in early development, and it's just, I can't help the fact that I'm very passionate about the work I do. I'm sure that a lot of people have noticed that by now. I'm extremely passionate about the work I do. And I did a lot of in-depth research on Destiny. And I knew exactly what I wanted to ask, stuff that I wanted to know. And the reason why it was so disappointing is because like I really wanted to get those answers. I really wanted to, and it was like, nope, not going to talk about that. And I was like, it was so sad. But yeah, there were still decent hosts. They allowed me to see a presentation before the interview, which I don't actually even think that it was scheduled. So they were pretty flexible in that aspect. Activision was pretty much like, you'd almost think that Activision would be these arrogant guys, just like, look, whatever, you do things our term or whatever. They were pretty flexible most of the time. I really didn't have a lot of problems with getting the interviews. Not a lot of times have people actually pressured me in regards to time limits. The Destiny interview was one of those, but you can understand why, because there was like probably 90,000 people wanting to see Destiny. I mean, Activision were pretty cool in that regards. But yeah, again, I was at the end of the day, I was a little bit disappointed with the fact that I couldn't get as much information as I wanted. But still, I think you guys will still enjoy that interview. That's going to be coming up on the channel pretty soon. Maybe even a Destiny speculation video to go with it. I'm not exactly sure if that's going to happen or not. I'll have to think about what I want to cover in regards to Destiny before I get involved in that, because I have a lot of other videos to work on. But definitely the interview will be going up on the channel soon. And when I say soon, I mean when my upload speed allows it. Fucking Zon TV Cabo. Whatever. Either way, from then I had to go back from Gamescom to the Radisson Hotel, and I had to go and watch a presentation on Invisimals, which I had already watched at E3. But like I said, publishers will give you a lot of stuff, and you will have to attend all the stuff that they give you. That's just the way that these events work. After that, I went to watch a presentation about Drive Club, which I actually hadn't seen at E3. And it was interesting because the guy presenting it, he was like this, he was giving out this arrogant vibe. And it was just so entertaining because he was like, let me tell you guys about my game. My game is the best racing car game. Okay? You might think other games are good, and that's fine. But mine, it's the best. And then he's like, you see these two guys here? He's talking about like people from his studio. These guys suck at playing my game. You know why? Because I'm just that much better than them. It's like he's going on this whole thing, and I'm just like with a big smile on my face because I thought it was hilarious. It was a lot of fun listening to that guy talk. It was a really interesting presentation. I currently don't have any plans to make a video about Drive Club because, let's face it, it's a racing game. Basically, the main things that this racing game brings that other racing games don't bring is a lot of social features. Like you can challenge your friends. Like let's say you do a specific time trial, and then you can send that challenge to a friend, and then your friends will try to do that same specific time trial. And then those things can go onto a social platform that they have. And it kind of starts working like StarCraft 2 custom maps. You know, it's like your challenge is like one of the StarCraft 2 custom maps. And like it can become a trending challenge. So a lot of people might choose to do it. It can become a featured challenge, you know, that kind of stuff. A lot of social interaction. That's something that this game is doing that maybe not a lot of other racers are doing. He also claims that the game is ridiculously detailed. I looked at it, and to be honest, sorry, dude. Like your presentation, awesome. Your game doesn't look super amazing, in my opinion. But still, oops, sorry. Smacked the camera a little bit there. Sorry about that. Anyways, after Drive Club, I had to once again go from the Radisson back to Gamescom. And I did an interview about Sonic Lost World. This was at the Nintendo booth. And yes, I was a little bit too scared to say that I did not have a Wii U. Because I'm going into the Nintendo booth. There's like all these Nintendo people around and stuff. And then it's just like me and the leader of the Sonic team. I think that's who he was. Again, I have all that stuff on video, so I didn't make much of an effort to remember it. But he was a big shot in regards to Sonic games, basically, is what I'm getting at. And he showed me the game, and then I did an interview. The interesting part is that I didn't have any questions at all for Sonic Lost World. And while I was at the Radisson watching the Invisimals presentation, because I had already seen Invisimals at E3, so it was pretty much the same presentation that they were giving. So while I was there, I was basically figuring out questions that I wanted to ask for Sonic Lost World. And then while the Sonic guy was playing and telling me about the game, I was thinking up more questions to do for that interview. So as you guys can see, a lot of the times these things are like that. You have to kind of come up with stuff on the fly, and you have to be able to perform a decent interview, which I think I did. But you guys will be the judge. That particular interview will be hitting the channel as well as soon as my upload speed allows it. But either way, I'm actually going to leave this particular Conscast here. In the next Conscast, I will be telling you guys about Thursday and Friday. Oh wait, I actually I shouldn't finish the video yet. I forgot to mention that after all of this stuff on Wednesday, I went to a dinner with all the other news reporters that were there from Portugal, as well as PlayStation Portugal. So we all went out for dinner, kind of like the same thing that we did at E3. I told you guys about the Sony dinner that I went to. So it was pretty much the same thing. We all just kind of hung out. And it was interesting because Sandra always kept telling people, you see, you were alone last year. Now this year you're here with Rubber Chicken. That's all thanks to me. She was kind of like rubbing it in my face, and it was pretty much true. I met the Rubber Chicken guys at the Sony dinner. So, yeah, that was pretty much true. Either way, one of the problems, and let me just warn you guys this kind of as a tip, one of the problems of actually doing these kinds of things, of hanging out at night with friends and colleagues that do the same kind of stuff that you do, hanging out at night during one of these events is actually, it's pretty costly. And what I mean by costly, I'm not talking about monetary-wise. What I mean costly is time-wise. Because depending on the time that you actually have to get up in the morning to do your job, to actually go back and do more coverage, you obviously don't want to stay up too late. Well, the problem is when you put a lot of people that are all interested in kind of like the same things, which, I mean, most of the people there were reporters or people that were around the gaming industry. And when we put a bunch of those people together, usually they want to keep talking about stuff. And you end up talking, and all of a sudden it's 2 a.m. and you're still talking, and you're like, oh, it's actually 2 a.m. This is not looking too good because I have to get up at 6:30. So the thing is, I had to pay the price. I only slept 4 hours that night. So be careful with that kind of stuff, guys. Either way, thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned for the second episode, which I really didn't want to have to split it up into episodes, but you guys know that I ramble, so that stuff happens. But stay tuned for the second episode where we will be going over the events of Thursday and Friday at Gamescom. Thank you very much for watching. Now we'll see you guys in the next one.